Wait, can I be myself?
What do you mean, can you be yourself? Who else would you be?
Never
I don't understand the question.
Be yourself, but be yourself.
mind. Okay.
Okay? Be yourself, but be yourself.
Everybody else is taken.
Articulate.
Ready?
No, but let's go.
Let's do this.
Wait, come up a little bit into the
Oh.
frame.
Oh, sorry. It's better.
Nope.
Oh, you have to come all the way in. That's right, because that's you have to literally pull right in. Is that better?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, first and foremost, Ifemilu has always had a problem with being herself and only herself from the beginning of the book. It's kind of like she found herself in Auntie Uju, she found herself in her dad, she found herself in everybody else's mess, especially Obenze's, which I'll get to that in a second. But specifically, she never really knew who she was, so she always did things to kind of feel something in herself and make it like what she wanted to do. So when they first had sex, it was like, he was like, oh, well, I want to wait. And then she was like, well, no, I don't want to wait, because it's like she was trying to find some type of feeling with that situation in order to feel like, oh, I'm, developing, I know what I want. And she was just trying to get clarity with everybody else in society's rules and not herself. And I think what's really ironic is when Obenze's mother said, you can't put your future in the hands of another man if you don't care, if he doesn't care about your, well-being and your safety, and he doesn't really love you. So I found it really ironic that he was supposed to be the one that loved her the most, and they're so in love and all these other things. And like, he was kind of like, oh, I don't have a condom. I don't, like, it's like he's saying, oh, screw your protection, screw, keeping both of us safe, because that doesn't really matter. And I found that really ironic, just because you said you was in love with me first, so Benze, so like, love me. It's weird. Also, when I was reading about Chimamanda, she said that her inspiration came from Chinua Adichie.
Mm-hmm. Things Fall Apart.
Yeah, Things Fall Apart. And she kind of saw people who looked like her in books and never really saw that in mainstream literature. So that's what really sparked her, reason to write and her motivation. And she said that she wanted to write books that didn't paint the stereotypical people from Africa. She didn't want them to, portray the role of less fortunate and having no opportunity, struggling. There's, diseases flying everywhere. They're really dirty people. She wanted to picture people who fit her lifestyle, who fit her, what she went through. Like both her parents were educated. They were employed at university. She was a very smart young girl, and she was very successful, and she came from Africa. So she wanted people to understand her perspective of what she lived and what Africa is really like. I think next I wanted to talk about the appeals. So when his mother was talking to them, she's a very credible woman, and she's a very smart, educated woman, and I feel like this is a phase of empowerment for Efem. So she kind of listened to her because she was smarter than her, and she was more, more experienced than Efem, and she could understand more things. And also, she kind of that was ethos, I'm sorry. Logos, logically, you don't want to have a baby at 16 or 17. I'm not sure exactly how old they were. And they didn't know what they were doing with themselves. Ifemilu didn't know who she was. Obenze was still a little boy. He didn't know what he wanted. He didn't know where he was going. He knew where he wanted to go, but he knew it was basically impossible. So how can you raise a child if neither of you know who you are and what you want to do? It doesn't really make sense, because it takes a whole village to raise a child, and clearly no one's together here. And also, pathos is just like, she was trying to invoke like a sense of responsibility and fear to their hearts, that this is real life. Like, you're not a little kid. No one's going to hold your hand. No one's always going to be there for you. And you're on your own. Once you have a kid, it's not like all sunshine and rainbows and love. Love is actually something that you struggle through, and it's something that, doesn't always come easy, and it's not perfect. And clearly we see that with them when she goes to America and she like cuts him off completely and he starts to live his life. It's like love is this longing thing that nobody can connect to. I mean, of course she has love for her family and Auntie Uju, but her love is always complicated. And so it never really reaches a point to where she's genuinely happy because she's still searching for herself and other people, and she doesn't clearly understand that you can't search for yourself and other people. You have to find it on your own. But I think she really has a problem with that because she doesn't like being alone. It's really like, kind of like when people who always have friends and they never are used to not having friends, they always have to have somebody around to give them attention, like a baby.
Okay, so the excerpt that you have focuses on a very, very critical point in the text where Obenze and Ifemelu have really taken their relationship to the next level. And she's having a very, very personal conversation with her boyfriend's mother, which is ironic, as you stated. But I want you to switch your commentary just a little bit and look at this particular excerpt you have using the feminist criticism lens. And what I'd like for you to do is talk to me about some of the ideas that are upheld about gender roles and maybe some of the ideas that are subverted given this particular excerpt and the context of the text.
Well, the whole notion here, I think, is that women do have the power to hold their own future. Traditionally, especially in Nigeria and in American culture, men are supposed to hold the access to a woman's future and control everything that they do. But here, I feel like Ifem is empowered by Obenze's mother to, take her own future into her own hands and not be so contingent upon a man. But what I do think here is, something that is very prevalent is that women, it's always a woman's fault. Always a woman's fault if she says yes, always a woman's fault if she allows a man to do this to her, which is kind of contradictory because if we're supposed to be controlled, how are we responsible when the actions aren't our own? And also that women shouldn't allow men to, force themselves upon them and, force their ideas and all types of things like that. But also that men are, not a scapegoat, but they're allowed to make mistakes and everything to be okay for them. But when a woman makes a mistake, it's very, very frowned upon. And it's kind of, again, if those aren't our actions, why is it us who's being frowned upon? If we're controlled by a man, it doesn't really make sense.
So when you think about the way in which Obenze's mom kind of approaches the dialogue with the two characters, she treats Ifemelu very, very sternly, more so than her own mother. Why do you imagine she did that? What do you think Adichie is trying to kind of reveal to us through the way that she handled that?
I feel like what Adichie's trying to say is that other people care, well, not other people, but people who want to see a young woman succeed and beat the binary of the traditional Nigerian lifestyle, women who are empowered and have been empowered and have lived the empowerment. She wants to push that upon us and say, you know what, this is what has to happen. You have to be stern and you have to, be real. Because I don't feel like she was exactly being stern, but I feel like she's being very, very realistic. And she doesn't want us to live in that fairy tale lifestyle where, oh, it's all butterfly. She's like, no, this is what really happens. This is the real stuff, and this is what people need to teach you, and this is what people need to tell you. You're a young woman, and you're supposed to know these things. I think she's really angry because nobody has ever taught them that. And I feel like this is what Adichie's mother taught her. This was her guiding light, and I feel like that's exactly who Obenze's mother represents because her mother was the registrar at a university. So she, lived the empowerment lifestyle, and she got the knowledge that she was supposed to get. And this is her the turning point in Ifem's life, and I feel like that was the turning point in Revelation for Adichie.
And my final question for you is, as you think about this particular excerpt, what are some pervading themes that come up in this piece that are also developed throughout the text?
Oh, definitely love, because I feel like here is where they gained the connection of real, and they understood what real love was. And I feel like this is when real love started to blossom for Ifem. And also the lack of identity, because again, she was doing this just to do it. She didn't know exactly what she wanted. She just thought she wanted these things. And she tried to find herself always in Obenze and never in, on her own or by herself. So I feel like definitely love and identity. And also, I feel like what was really prevalent in the text was the empowerment of women. Because a lot of times, again, like you said, we always see, oh, the women don't have a name, or you know, if they do have any, they're contingent. Here, not so much when she starts to grow older.
Okay, thank you. Your thoughts?
One of the best.
I was gonna say, she hit on, I've just been